notes that we know in the first 5 notes of the scale. So saxophone, alto, our first note, concert B flat is your G, 3 fingers. Okay, so let's play that together and see what that sounds like. Hey, good. And remember, when we put our mouthpiece on, let's see if we can scooch it up a little bit more. So you want about 1 inch of cork. Do you need some cork grease? Maybe. All right, we'll grab you some over here. All right. So if the mouthpiece isn't going on the cork very well, what you'll do is you'll take a little bit of this cork grease and take the mouthpiece off. What? And then, yeah, that's a sign that it's a little bit too sticky. It's okay. You can put the reed and the ligature over here. Let's stand for a second. I'll grab that for you. All right. So you just kind of put a thin little coating all around. You don't want it so where it's glopping off, because then it'll get all in your mouthpiece and it'll make your saxophone messy. So try just a little bit of that, and then when you put the mouthpiece on, now I suggest, you see what she's doing here? She put her reed on first and then is putting the ligature over top. That can sometimes chip the reed or break it a little bit, so I like to put the ligature on first and then just kind of hold it up. And then I'll show you on mine. So you have the ligature, you just kind of hold it up a little bit and then you slide the reed down into the ligature, and that way you don't chip or crack your reed and have to buy more. And then when you put the mouthpiece on, and same with the clarinets, when you're putting the joints together, you want to just kind of hold and twist, 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 nice and gently so that it doesn't hit the rest of the instrument. Okay, so I'm going to let you get going with getting your mouthpiece back on there. So we'll move over to clarinets. Clarinets, your first note is a C. And C is 3 fingers. Remember, left hand on top, right hand on bottom.
It's 3
there
fingers?
You go. Yep, 3 fingers.
Oh boy.
Cover up the first 3, and it
Up
should.
the back 1, 2.
Yes, thumb, 1, 2, 3, and it should sound like this.
Is that right? No.
No. Well, no. Hey, there you go. Okay, so Rebecca, what can make that sound is if you have fingers that are accidentally pushing another button. Like we have these crazy keys over here on the side, or over here. There you go. So what I want you to do, and this is for the clarinets and saxophone, you kind of put your bottom lip over your bottom teeth and tuck it in a little bit. And then you want your bottom lip to go, if you kind of look at your mouthpiece and read from the side, see the reed and the mouthpiece are kind of open at the tip, but then as you go down further, there's a place where the reed and the mouthpiece meet. That's where you want your bottom lip to go. And then your top teeth are on top. Okay. Clear as mud? All right. Okay, so Tyler, make sure, I noticed over here, it looks like you're maybe not putting down your second finger all the way over the hole.
This one?
Yep, and then
Oh,
air can
cool.
escape and it'll make it kind of squeaky sound. There you go. Rebecca, try a little bit more mouthpiece in the mouth. Make sure you're sitting up nice and straight and tall. I'm going to move your reed down just a little bit.
That's how you cheat.
When I did that the last time, I made my tongue tickle.
Oh, never mind. I lost it. Am I ready for?
Alright, so you want your hands to kind of be out in a C shape, nice and relaxed, so you're not hitting these other keys. A little bit more mouthpiece in the mouth, and start the note. Okay, we're on the right track.
Are we?
Start like this. Let's try, so start with 0 fingers, so nothing on the clarinet at all. And that's going to be your G, open G. If you're hitting, it's called an overtone, so it might be that you're pinching a little too much or squeezing too much on the mouth. Okay, I'm going to come back to you in just a second. Tiffany, let me see your G again. Good. Good. All right, now Brendan, I'm going to switch over to you for a second. Your first note is a B flat. And there's a couple different ways you can do B flat. The way I like to start is 1, 1, pinky, thumb. 1, 1, pinky, thumb in the back. Yeah, and we should get a sound. So now, I like to start to kind of figure out where a good embouchure is and how to get going. I kind of like to start with my lips in the hole and then roll it down on the bottom. Yeah, that's much better. That's a better sound. Good. So the head joint's kind of like part of your face. And see, as I'm talking, the flute's kind of moving with my chin.
Yeah.
All right, so it's kind of part of your face. Go down, and then up, and straight across. Very nice, good. All right, let me hear everybody together your first note. Rebecca, we're going to make sure we're covering up all 3 of those holes all the way. Got your thumb covered up. All right, good. Lots of room, here we go. Ready, and. All right, so thumb, 1, 2, 3. Your reed feels like it's kind of thick. I'm going to move it down just a little bit more, and I'm going to loosen up your ligature just a little bit to try to help open up the sound a little bit. So it's kind of like, and you play flute, so the difference between going from flute to clarinet, there's a little bit more back pressure, I feel like, on clarinet, and so it's kind of like you're, instead of kind of blowing straight across, there's more back pressure, and it's like you're blowing through a tiny little coffee stirrer straw. And so kind of aim your air more down to your toes.
Okay.
All right, now everybody, let's make sure we're remembering to start with our tongue. So on a reed instrument, the tip of the tongue goes on the tip of the reed. Okay, so kind of like if you're saying the words ta, 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 think about where your tongue is on the roof of your mouth when you're doing that. Ta, 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 ta. Same kind of thing, only on the reed. When you start the note. Okay. All right, so let's try. We're going to try maybe the first couple of notes of the Dr. G's Fantastic 5-note warm-up. We're starting on our concert B flat. The next note, so when we get to our second note, saxophones and clarinets, we're just lifting up the 3rd finger. So now it's 2. Clarinets, you have your thumb in the back. Saxophone, no thumb yet. That's your octave key. And flute, we're moving up to C. So you just have 1 and pinky. So we had 1, 1, pinky, thumb. And now we just have 1 and pinky. And I kind of balance the flute on my 1st finger here and with my chin, the bottom of my lip. That's how I keep it balanced. Okay, good. So let's just see if we can get through the first 2 notes. So we're going to start at the beginning. We play our concert B flat for 4 counts, rest for 4 counts to kind of look ahead and get your fingers ready, and then we'll play the second note. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready, and. Rest, 2, switch your finger, here we go. Alright, good. When you hear clarinets and saxophone, your second note.
I was there for a little bit.
Now, Tyler, you usually play saxophone. So going from saxophone to clarinet, have you played soprano sax?
No.
Okay, so kind of, and you mostly play tenor?
I used to play
Alto
alto,
and tenor?
but now I'm playing tenor.
Okay, so the smaller the instrument, the more the back pressure, and so probably I would suggest you to use less air, because the air on saxophone is a little bit more powerful than the air on your clarinet, so a little bit less air. Hey, there you go.
Wow.
Okay. Now, Rebecca, when I get that sound out, what you're getting is an overtone. And so what you could try to do is think about your air going from an ee-yaw. So we're kind of relaxing the jaw and relaxing the embouchure a little bit and trying to get that air to relax a little bit. See, listen here. So if I'm making that sound, it's because I'm starting a little bit too tight here. Good. Brennan, let's hear your C, one in pinky. Okay, I'm going to try, keep your ear going. I'm going to try rolling this out. Okay, good. Hey, that one sounded much better. What did you do differently that time?
I focused the air a little bit more.
Hey, there you go. Focusing the air a little bit more. So I kind of, my lips make a, like you're whistling or blowing out a birthday candle. Straight across. There we go. Okay, so that's our second note. Let's look ahead to the third note. The third note, so saxophones, your third note B, just one finger. Okay. Clarinets, you have an E, which is one in thumb. And flutes, this gets a little bit tricky because, so C was one in pinky, so we kind of go opposite. So everything that is up for C goes down for D. So D is 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and thumb. Kind of like D on a saxophone, only we're going to lift up the first finger.
Okay.
So you got thumb, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but we've lifted up the first finger. And we're balancing the flute on our first finger here with our chin, just in the hole, roll it out. Yeah! Have you ever taken a soda or a pop bottle and blown across the top of it?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what playing a flute's like. Yeah. Good. Okay, so now we know our first three notes. All right, so we're going to start at the beginning and go up to the third note. So we're practicing up to the third note. So we're starting back on C clarinets, 3 in thumb, G, 3, and 1, 1 pinky thumb. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and. Rest, 2, get your fingers ready, here we go. Rest, and here's the next note, and. Okay, good. Now, Brendan, I noticed you kind of took your head off and you were looking at your fingers. So, if possible, it's really important to try to keep the instrument up and then just feel it. Let's start on that third note that we learned, and then we're going to go down. This might help clarinets a little bit to get that lower sound out. So, we're going to start on, so hang on tight just a second, Brendan. We're going to start clarinets and saxophone on one finger. Okay? And we're just going to try maybe in half notes. So. Now, the lower you go, the more fingers you cover up, the more air you have to use. So maybe with this first note, we're not blowing too hard, not blowing too much air across it, just nice and easy. So first finger, let's try that, everybody. So these three, starting on first finger. Try not to sit with your elbows on your lap. We're shutting out nice and tall. 1, 2, ready, and. Good. And in between notes, we're using our tongue. How are you doing, Rebecca?
I got it.
Yay!
Didn't sound right, but I got it.
So what did you do differently this time when you got it? That's it! Hey, you did it!
Kind of just like worked it a little more.
All right, Brendan, let's hear yours. So we're going from D down to C, down to B flat. Okay, we're going to try in that transition. This is the trickiest part, I think, in playing flute, is going between C and D. But once you can master that, you've done it. Okay, so let's start on D. We're going to do half notes. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and. There you go. Now, where do we tongue on flute? So they tongue, the tip of the tongue is on the tip of the reed.
Against the teeth?
So kind of like you're saying, two. The tip of the tongue is kind of on the back of my front teeth. Good. Everybody, let's try that. So we're going to go in half notes. Just the first three notes that we had there, starting on the top note and going down. That's where you go. 1, 2, Ready? And. Alright, very good. Top. So flutes, E flat. This is going to be pretty easy compared to D. So we have 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 thumb. Now we're just going to add the pinky. Hey, good. Good sound. Alright. Clarinets. You have, what note do you have there? In the bottom space. F. F is just thumb only. Okay. Thumb only. Saxophone, your note is C. And this one, so we had G, A, B. Now you go to C is the middle. So C, middle finger, saxophone, and then just thumbs, clarinets. You can join us, Brendan. Let's hear this. This is your fourth note. Should sound like this. So Rebecca, if you're getting that squeaky sound, try. You're starting the note with the tongue, yes? Yeah. Okay. So, do you notice, is there a difference between when you were playing just now and when the squeaky sound was coming out?
Can't.
So it's kind of like riding a bike, figuring out that combination between what you need with air and your embouchure. But once you get it, you're pushing the air down. She's got it. Good. All right. Yay!
Finally.
All right. Our fifth note, our last note that we're going to work with today. Saxophones. This is called going over the break for you. So you're going up to D. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all 6 fingers, and the thumb in the back. So almost everything. This is going to feel like it's going to take a little bit more air for you because the air has to travel further before it escapes. Clarinets. This is one of the easiest notes for you, I think.
Yeah.
Open G. Sometimes this can be a little bit tricky because it's hard to balance it. Can I see your clarinet for just a second? So when you're playing open G, most of the weight kind of comes here into your thumb. And I recommend not letting your fingers fly away. So even though it's open, we don't want our fingers to not be over the hole. So they're just kind of hovering over the hole so that when you need them next, they're right where they need to be. But most of the balance comes here from your thumb. If you feel like your thumb is kind of hurting after a while, let me see if this clarinet has one. They make these little thumb rests, these little thumb pads that can go there to help your thumb.
Very cool.